Great, we are live everywhere.
Hello, everybody.
Good
Happy Friday.
morning. Yes, good morning, everyone. Good part of the day. Happy to be here again with you today. And today on our Health Wave podcast, we have an array of questions. Arthritis, wine, and chicken soup. This is what we are covering today. So let's start with the first question. What causes arthritis?
Arthritis, as we know, is the degenerative disease of the connective tissue, cartilages, and primarily manifest in the joints, in the larger joints, in the knees, and in the elbows, and of course, in the fine joints, the joints of the fingers. That's where people would feel them the most, and that happens due to very active usage of these joints. They are very active, and we just work with our fingers all the time. People who work with their fingers um, very prone to develop arthritis in these areas. So let's cover what that causes. The connective tissue is tissue between the fat tissue and the bone tissue that is basically produces the whole matrix for our system. The connective tissue it can be found everywhere and anywhere. It's makes the framework of our body, and then um, the other tissues, fill in those gaps that connective tissue uh, forms. It's very simple way to explain. So arthritis is caused by multiple factors. We'll start probably with the talking about how our body is very overloaded with uh, different types of movements that are not sometimes trained to be the uh, like the routine movement for the body, and then all of a sudden the muscle can just untrained muscle can not hold the bone in place, and because of the weakness of the muscles, in other words, may lead to disalignment of the bone and at an awkward movement, which will risk the cartilage to um, get misplaced and begin to rub on the surface of the joint uh, of the other bone. So, and this is where the changes can begin. So, so muscle weakness in many um, cases, muscle weakness in the spinal cord, like the back muscles, are pretty weak, and people when they sit in a very awkward and uncomfortable positions for hours with untrained back muscles, that dislodgement may happen, which leads to some degenerative changes in cartilages. Another reason, of course, would be the high acidity in our body because we eat primarily acidic foods.
Which is probably a more prominent reason.
It could be, yes. And when we eat acidic foods, our body naturally is trying to compensate it by neutralizing the acidity with alkaline environment, and therefore it needs high amount of minerals that can neutralize the acidity. And those minerals are being washed out from the bones in order to produce this effect. And once the uh, weak bone uh, or the bone that's been deprived of of calcium begins to be very weak, and that leads to changes of the connective tissue of the cartilage in it, which then uh, begins to deform and rub against the other surface in the joint, and slowly inflame and get worn out, get destroyed. The inflammation comes about, and there we have the arthritic changes in the joint. So that's reason number two. Another reason is infection, of course. And again, in the weak body, which is highly acidified, infections can circulate within the lymphatic system and lymph nodes that are very close to the joints. There can be some accumulations of infection that will actually overflow into the joint, and the inflammation can start in the joint. The synovial ducts with the synovial sacs with synovial fluid that's supposed to be lubricating the joint would actually narrow down or spasm, and then the fluid would just be uh, not adequate. The joint would degenerate and inflame, and we have the arthritis there just as a result. And of course, autoimmune changes. And autoimmune changes, usually what we think is genetic is not so genetic as it is, because what happens is there are few reasons for that. And again, that comes down to what we eat and what is circulating within our bloodstream, within our lymphatic system. And those within the bloodstream, we have inorganic minerals. And inorganic minerals, they're due to evacuation, they need to be eliminated through the kidneys, as the kidneys and liver and lungs, they are filters of the body, and filters get polluted pretty quickly. So it is very important to keep the filters clean and clear. But sometimes they're overloaded, and this is why there's another reason the body is trying to um, stash or stack those pollutants in other organs and tissues. And inertive tissue is the connective tissue is would be a very great depot, or the place the body wants to deposit these um, um, pollutants. So inorganic minerals, along with the mucus, and mucus is a result of the poor protein metabolism, which is like a complex polypeptide chains that get into the bloodstream and cause the reaction in autoimmune reaction, and with the production of different um, proteins or DKE that look like the basically mucus, which is the mucus, and they get mixed with these inorganic um, minerals and little salts or minerals. They little by little get into the body is hiding them, packing them within the connective tissue, where they get dried out and get deposited, and they actually just cling to the surface of the cartilage and begin degenerative process, where they grow like rocks and within the joint, and they continue to grow as we consume those poor nutritional foods. I mean, poor nutrients. They're not nutrients actually, but just pollutants. And more and more into not healthy, eating healthy, the person will see the degenerative changes in their joints, in their cartilages, that then will, of course, cause specific body reaction, as the protein and the proteins of decay they collect, uh, and this grows in the inside the cartilage would definitely cause the inflammation, and the inflammation is ongoing. As the reaction is ongoing, then the body somehow begins to respond it also on a chronic basis. And there we see the changes, like not just arthritic changes anymore, but like rheumatoid arthritis would be one of the degenerative autoimmune changes within the cartilage, within connective tissue. That would be like a pretty um, late stage of the arthritis development. So those would be the main reasons we have the arthritis uh, going, and of course that leads to slow wear off the cartilage in the joint completely, uh, shutdown of the lubrication of the joint, wear down the cartilage, and the individual who suffers this will eventually have to go to the clinic and be diagnosed and then offered some kind of treatment for that. And usually, as it's considered to be a degenerative state, which
Incurable.
yeah, which is
Mhm.
basically incurable. Then some supplemental treatments like injections into the joints initially, because the person would feel the changes not in a very late stage, of course, but like significantly early or moderately early, where the cartilage is still in place, is still there, but it's already changed to where it's causing the painful sensations, and that is very uncomfortable. This is very painful. Arthritic pain is very high, very intense. It gets in the way of movement, and it gets in the way of performing tests. And of course, nobody wants to deal with this, and nobody knows how to deal with it, because taking medication for it is just, it doesn't really solve the problem, but on the contrary, it causes like the reverse effect. It
Exacerbates the problem.
yes, and aggravates the condition of the liver and so on, internal organs. So people go for different types of treatments, and those are the injections and even the joint replacements. So this is the way that medicine is dealing with this problem in the late stages, and we need to really understand what the reasons on the underlying reason for these conditions in order to approach it, in the right way, and definitely the first line of that we can consider to uh, deal with this problem would be the natural path, natural way. And everybody, I think, first think that it is the natural way that they want to resort to before they go for a more critical treatment, more drastic solutions for the joints. And natural medicine definitely has many ways to offer in order to reverse this condition or ease this condition at least.
Hmm. So definitely the alternative medicine sources, and by alternative medicine sources we mean the modern day medicine, right? Because it's the youngest, so we call it alternative medicine.
Well,
So
I
it
think for the clarity of everybody, let's call alternative as natural, because this is what's considered to be, even though we would want to repeat it in every our podcast, that alternative from word alter is the medicine that's been altered from tradition, and that's the modern day medicine that needs to really be called alternative. However, nowadays people understand it the other way, so we need to make this clear in order to
of course.
for everybody to understand that. Yes.
So it mentions, of course, wear and tear of the joints from overuse. It mentions age, injuries, genes or family history. It mentions muscle weakness, It does mention obesity, but that's about it when it comes to food. But when we analyze all of the factors that impact this disease, it's clear that it is mostly caused by inappropriate acidic and polluting foods. So let's mention those acidic polluting foods so that our viewers have a clear understanding.
Yes, of course. Basically, as we understand, nutrition is fundamental. In that means that most of the causes of any disease stem out of improper nutrition. And here, when we talk about arthritis, we need to mention that anything that causes high acidity in the body, that doesn't digest well, and um, then requires then neutralization or some effort to for elimination, would definitely be number one, mineral deprived, or the minerals that in those foods would actually be inorganic, inionic. They would not be water soluble, something that can participate in reactions and can neutralize the acidity type of minerals. So and that would be most of the cooked food or overcooked food, because in Ayurveda we consider the three types of food, which is one is the smart food, full of vitality, rich in nutrients, and then next one is the dumb food, which is half deprived of nutrients. It may be, some cooked and refrigerated food that's been, kept and preserved in a good condition. Well, of course, organic, not over processed. That would be, and then there's like a dead food, and dead food is really poor processed foods that causes only pollution in the body. That doesn't really provide anything. So the acidity would rise when, if you were to eat and drink type of products that do not digest well, that leave the traces of toxins and a lot of metabolic wastes, heavy animal proteins, definitely very acidic alcohol, very acidic coffee, um, to the sugar, very acidic type of nutrients. Then some of the vegetables that are not really vegetables, and we always, call them out, and they are nightshades. Nightshades, they're full of lectins. They're probably the leaders in lectins. Anything that has lectins, lectin-containing foods, would be very acidic too. So
And those nightshades include tomatoes, potatoes, sweet and hot spicy peppers,
mhm,
eggplants.
yes,
So that's the majority.
yes, complex carbohydrates, complex glycoproteins and proteins. Uh, those are very acidic, very hard to digest. Foods that would stagnate would not really provide you with nutrients, but on the other hand, would require the neutralization of the acidity, as the blood cannot uh, accept that acidity and would have to neutralize it. And if you are not alkalizing over your acidity, then the body will find its own reserves from within to neutralize this acidity. And that alkalinity of the body is natural given alkalinity from birth, that is within the structures, within the structure of your tissue, that is within the structure of the vitality of your each and every cell of your body. That if the body has to neutralize this acidity, it will take that alkalinity from the vitality of your body. That will make your lifespan shorter, of course. And if your body has to do it day in and day out all the time, then you will see degenerative changes within the whole of your body. Especially the connective tissue too. And this is what wears out the collagen. Yes, collagen is connective tissue too. And this is what undermines the health. And this is what ruins the bones, ruins the muscle, ruins the liver. And the great neutralizer for acidity is, of course, elements, macro and trace elements that need to be washed out from the bones, from the muscle, from even the nervous tissue. Then, one in the later stages, in order to neutralize the acidity, and within that process, there's a lot of sediment happens that needs to also be filtered out through the kidneys, through the liver, and that actually pollutes the filters. And there we have a very complex condition with a multitude of diagnoses that and arthritis is just one of them, and maybe not even the worst one, even though degenerative changes of the connective tissue are always a great concern. Okay, so those foods to avoid. Now, what foods do we need to take in order to bring the?
Just wanted to mention something real quick. There is a lot of research on the direct correlation between some of the acidic foods that we mentioned and the condition of bones, like brittle bones, osteoporosis, arthritis. So if you look for the information, it's out there, it's official, and it's scientific data. So, for example, the countries with the largest consumption of dairy, not surprisingly, have the highest amount of arthritis among their population. So, just throwing this out there.
Mhm. And that is due to a few reasons. Is that um, the casein is very acidic and is very hard to break down, and it is an antigen, in fact, that actually simulates the protein of our pancreas, and this is why the diabetes type 1 is actually develops, is because of consumption of casein within the milk or dairy products, and this is the reason for it. And the elements within the pasteurized milk are not really uh, useful, as they are inorganic um, anymore, and they lose their ionic form. They cannot go towards the building of tissue. Um, and this is a very tricky moment. People think that what they eat has a lot of minerals in it, and if they read the label, it says calcium, potassium, magnesium, sodium in great amounts. But those elements there are actually just inorganic salts that will not help you, will not be healthy for you, but on the other hand will actually cause the further pollution with further development of such degenerative conditions. And then the proteins, like I said, animal proteins, especially when they have digested, because our body just doesn't have the strong enzymic system. It doesn't have the high acidity of digestive juices in order to break these very high complex proteins down into amino acids. And the consumption of proteins nowadays is so great that even if we had to, we would still not be able, because the amount of them is so great and that people consume. And they get into the system, causing this inflammation, causing this reaction to when the body needs to uh, just put all of its reserves, energy reserves, in order to neutralize and fight these antigens, neutralize them. And as a result, we have the pussy mucus basically forming within our body that needs to also be stored within the body. And where is it stored? Within cavities or some empty spaces, and those are joints too. So joint would harbor these inorganic minerals mixed within these decaying proteins, and lodge them within the cavities of joints, within these gaps. And this is where we begin to have this problem.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, great. So now that we understand where arthritis is coming from, we can get to the next question. Can arthritis be cured? So there are definitely ways to get rid of arthritis for good naturally. So we have multiple success stories to share. Today, I just wanted to share one especially notable case. Um, we had a few years ago a woman in her late 30s, maybe early 40s, walked into Purple Sprout Cafe and Juice Bar that we used to have at the moment, and she could barely walk. She was in so much pain. So she had arthritis, and of course, she was told that it cannot be cured. She can never get rid of it. So now, from that point on, the only recommendation was to kind of help manage the pain level and get some injections and things like that. So once we provided her with our recommendations, and we also made all the meals for her, so she only ate the food that we provided. Within 8 months, she was officially declared arthritis free. So how we found out is she ran into the store, she ran into our facility screaming that I no longer have arthritis. So, and then she told us the story that the doctors, once she felt totally fine, she went to do um, some lab tests, and the doctors tested her for a month trying to find something, some traces of arthritis. They were all gone. So now let's disclose some of the secrets to um, getting
Well,
rid of the symptoms.
going back to the question, can arthritis be cured? Well, yes, it can be cured if you consider joint replacement a cure. But yes, well,
Talking about
cured,
naturally.
cured is probably the too big a word, but ultimately, this is what we all strive for, to cure condition, to have it completely gone, or in other conditions, we want to suppress like infections and some pathogens down to where they just go into the everlasting remission, and that's like not being bothered. But it really depends on your behavior. Now, it's not that we've cured it and that's it, end of the story. Curing it is the work of every day. Let's say you've set that objective and you've reached it at one day, and you're happy and you say I'm cured. But then what that means, that's it, you are not due for anything else. And then when tomorrow comes, what are you gonna be doing then next day? So it all depends on your behaviors. Anything that you've done on this path to when you cured your condition, that needs to also be applied then after you've cured it. Otherwise, if you go back to your old ways, you will develop it again. Because any condition is the result of our actions. And if you want to stay cured, you need to behave cured, or when you were doing those routines or eating that nutrition that you
So we
were
have to
that was getting
sustain
you to that cure.
that
So
lifestyle. Yes. So
let's
I have to mention. So after having talked about the success story, so that same woman came back to us about 6 months later because she fell off the bandwagon and the arthritis symptoms started to come back. So yes, this is what happens. This is what Dr. Nature was talking about. That once you have cured your arthritis, or once you have gotten rid of all the symptoms and you are feeling great and no lab results show any trace of arthritis, you have to stay, you have to sustain that same lifestyle that got you out of that miserable condition. So
yes.
what is that lifestyle? What do people need to do? Just some of the main points to get rid of arthritis.
At the basic point, it's everything for everybody. It's one thing for everybody. We need to consider the nutrition. In fact, there are three aspects to our life, and three aspects only, really. It is our nutrition, it is our mental set, and it is the dynamics. So if we address these three, then we can cure anything, really. Um, so but those three are the most difficult ones, especially when we talk about nutrition, because nutrition it's not only the tradition, it's the way that the body is scheduled to function in. It's like the mode where you just live and you don't know other, but really the body can our physiology is very multidimensional and can function in under different conditions, and the mode of nutrition can be changed. And then once we change the mode of nutrition, the whole physiology changes too. So if we live in one mode of nutrition that we know by tradition, that was passed on to us by our parents and grandparents maybe, and families and friends that support that around, just because it's been traditional for so many years or maybe even centuries, the result of this traditional nutritional mode is accumulation of typical health conditions like arthritis, like diabetes, like heart diseases, mental diseases, stomach issues, intestinal issues, liver changes. This is just the result of this traditional, what we consider nutrition that we just accustomed to. Now, if you want different result in our body, we need to change this regimen. We need to change the mode of nutrition. And this is probably the hardest step on this path, to be able to not only understand what would be the benefits of it, even though others may tell you the benefits of this are this, and I started eating different and I cured and I have relief and I've changed a lot. My body changed and I feel better. I feel on and on and on. But for you individually, on a personal level, how is that applicable? Is it actually poses not only the difficulty on a physical level, but also a challenge in the mental realm to overcome this habit, and the habit is always mental, is a mental thing. To be able to not to think, not to crave for things that you would just fantasize about, just because your body is used to these foods and will start craving for them because your microflora is set that way, and it actually dictates your mind to what you need to eat or want to eat, and then you feel bad. And not only because of that, but because also what it will trigger is the release of toxins from the tissue depots, because while you're on the same type of nutrition, the toxins are being accumulated and they are not revealed, they're not shifted, they're not lodged from out from the tissues into the bloodstream. But once you change your nutrition, that's the entire picture happens. And beyond your cravings on a physical level and your craving on a mental level, there's a great release of toxins. And now you have to deal with that on top of dealing uh, with your mental cravings. And if you are not doing it properly, or nobody is actually supporting you, guiding you on how to do it all correctly, what to do and what routines to resort to in order to have this process go gentle and easy, then you would be very much challenged, and this may actually backfire. And one day you would find yourself just like stuffing old habitual foods back, like thinking I'm done with this. And this is a very difficult step. But so that was a little prelude in to to what exactly can actually now be beneficial. So
We are
excluding
actually
those,
disclosing the particularities.
yes, and that's what actually holds 90% of people who want to change, and then they fail and they say, oh, natural medicine didn't help me, because there've been mistakes, they couldn't sustain, and this they couldn't overcome these challenges, and that's the failure. This is the failure, nothing
So
else.
support system
Because
and the mindset are very
nature is
important.
nature. Nature cannot do wrong. It's us who do wrong, and we just don't know how to, because this is all new for us. Because somebody who's lived the whole lifetime in that mode, in the old habits, would not know how to change it. Because it's not like changing the oil in your car that you would do every 2 months, and you already know everything about it. Just go and do it. It's something new, and it's really um, hard to implement, because it's very multidimensional. It has a lot of aspects, and each one gets on top of the other, and then you think that you're lost. You don't find uh, ends of all of it. So, but number one thing would be eliminating all the acidic and causative factors from your nutrition, and those we already mentioned. Definitely need to move those out as much as possible. Maybe not right at once, but gradually, one by one, considering the worst ones, or considering the ones that you can actually go without first.
Let me take a second and reiterate those polluting, acidifying foods, animal products, any refined products, including gluten, refined flours, sugar, refined sugar, it's coffee, alcohol, nightshades, cooked greens.
Mhm.
So those would be the main categories.
Yes, pick and choose which one you can eliminate first and easiest. So, and then maybe for your mind entertainment, you can replace it with a like type of food from the plant-based kingdom. There's a lot of things like that, and this is the reason they're made like that, like tofu, for example, some sort of artificial type or plant-based meat. They even call it that way. So. Uh,
Of course, we don't recommend replacing anything with anything artificial. So you
well,
can make like bean patties, for example.
no, yes, but I mean, still, of course, but it's just these are natural steps. You cannot just jump from first grade into the seventh grade, right? So you need to go grade second grade, and that would, even though may not be the healthiest at all yet, but it would still get you out of the comfort zone, get you out of what your habitual realm is, and then start changing, and then it's not like you're setting your goal on staying on that. You would have to move on, of course, and there will be step number 3, step number 4, and then you will be eliminating those things too, like first substituting, let's say, animal products with maybe some um, plant-based proteins, beans maybe, or even soy, but then moving off of those too, little by little, that would be the goal. But start easy where you can sustain your your body craving, or at least not have the critical moment where you get to the point of uh, desperation, thinking that this is just not working, and you're failing. So we don't. The main thing is not to fail, and the failure is when the body is disagreeing with your mind. So the mind and the body need to always be hand in hand, walking this path together. So if the body doesn't like something, but your mind is striving for further results, you need to settle the mind down and understand what's going on with the body. What is the what why is this failing? Why is it failing? What's the required? What does it require now? What does it need to do? Maybe some because and usually body would do that because it's overwhelmed with toxins, and toxins we're talking about are dislodged from tissue depots and are circulating, and are now like getting systemic circulating within the body, and we need to consider eliminating that layer of toxins before proceeding. And the mind needs to like slow down, understand the present moment, and then take the measures, and then when the body perks up and the mind is ready to continue, then you do the next step, and so on and so forth until you start seeing results. But results will follow. What's important is to set the objectives and follow those objectives, uh, but at the same time, uh, not like don't do it like fanatically either. Maybe not giving yourself promise to become raw plant-based for the rest of your life. That would not be the good objective. You might want to do it in small increments, especially in the beginning, doing like a week cleanse, or a month plant-based, things like that. And then, this is where your body can really get this aha moment, saying, oh, yes, this works. But then the body has this tendency of falling back, and it usually wants to go back in its, old mode, and you can allow the body to do that, and then continue on. So next step would be, or at the same time, you want to introduce more alkaline type of foods, fresh greens, fresh vegetables, more vegetables. Do dishes with vegetables as a huge variety. Look through the recipes. Uh, use your own skill, imagination of preparing the type of dishes that can satisfy the craving of the mind and be filling to the body as well. At the same time, can be lighter, more alkaline, more like fresh, organic, and cleansing. So for that, we have we have uh, great amount of suggestions, recommendations. We have the program that we can introduce on how to do this in a mindful way. And little by little, naturally, you're seeing that your digestion improves, that a lot of symptoms on their own will just go away. Um, when we talk specifically about arthritis, then they can be what we need to do in order to remove some calcification, some pollution from the joints would be like very high acidic fruit juices, lemon juice would do that, organic acids like apple cider vinegar in increments too. So doing those to dissolve, to dislodge the deposits from the joints, reduce the inflammation, bring the good amount of organic minerals, elements in order to support the bones. And this is the path to clear out this uh, pollution from the joints and basically reduce the manifestations of this condition. Now, when we talk about full regeneration of cartilage, that requires further consideration because one thing is when we can reduce the pollution uh, and rid of the symptoms majorly, we would still have some re- degenerative changes within the cartilage that would just not go away, by just doing the correct type of nutrition. So those are considered to be incurable, or cartilage is not considered to be some tissue that can restore itself. But in natural health, there are ways that are being researched right now to regenerate the cartilage, regenerate the connective tissue with different natural products, different natural um, uh, healing modalities. One of them is the fungotherapy with the help of specific mushrooms, mushroom extracts that are applied and taken internally and applied externally can actually regenerate the cartilage um, and basically restore the connective tissue. So we will probably be considering introducing uh, in the near future some type of that um, methodology um, for cartilage regeneration. But at the present moment, what the first that's always the priority is consideration of reducing the um, reducing these changes, ongoing changes that are happening in this present moment with people who are suffer these conditions. Yeah,
Okay.
by the correct nutrition, by everything that we mentioned right now. Yeah.
So we mentioned to you the baseline things that can be done. If it's more severe cases, then of course would require a lot more uh, analysis and individual crafting an individual healing path. So, but now we're
Also, one
Mhm.
more thing is that cartilage is very complex tissue to regenerate. It requires a lot of components and a lot of in a very correct ratio to be utilized together. Those are minerals and vitamins and enzymes that come together in the uh, in the detoxed body that then can begin this regenerative process. It's the same applies to collagen. Collagen is not something that can be just taken, like the animal collagen. Somebody takes the animal collagen thinking that they're building their collagen. That is a wrong way of thinking even about it. So yeah.
so yes, collagen we can cover in one of the
Yes,
next
yes, we'll definitely talk about collagen.
editions of our podcast
Yes,
because we
for
do have a
sure.
question about that. Yes, so talking about the right amounts and the right ratios of the minerals and the vitamins and all those things. So fucoidan is known to have very strong cellular regeneration properties. And of course, we're talking about fucoidan that's part of a whole plant, for example, like fucus or bladderwrack, that has to have raw molecular preparation, not cooked, not just blended in a blender. So there has to be a special process that preserves the raw molecular structure, right, of the plant. And
We just don't have the enzymic content again, of our digestive juices in order to break the tough fiber of the seaweeds in order to get all those nutrients available and beneficial for us. So
mhm,
therefore, one process that disintegrates and breaks down the fibers within the um, within within the seaweed. That's the kind of uh, product you want to consider for use.
mhm. So
Yes, we
basically,
wanted
the
to get all the
fucoidan
benefits.
has to be not isolated, not an isolate, but part of a whole plant.
Mhm.
Okay, so moving on to the next two questions.
Mhm.
Is a daily glass of wine healthy? Great question, and a lot of people will be disappointed, I have a feeling.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Just
Well,
talked
talking
about
about
alcohol, right? Being a very acidifying food.
right. When we talk about wine or anything else, first of all, we need to say alcohol. Wine is alcohol. That's what it is, and there's nothing else it is. I mean, there of course
There
some
is no sugarcoating this.
right. There could be some good other components in the wine that can be in the juice. Actually, it doesn't have to be over fermented. However, what alcohol does, and let's just step back and just begin from the different point, not from specifically wine. But what alcohol is, it is considered to be an extreme energy that can neutralize another extreme. And I will explain to how it happens, on the physical level too. But extreme energy of this disbursement, which is the female energy, can neutralize the extreme energy of concentration, which is the male energy, right? And then that would happen to people, and that would be required by people who consume that extreme energy, which is very heavy and dense and concentrated, and that is animal products, animal proteins, high amount of proteins. This is why and that body cannot digest on its own, just because it doesn't have enough of strength to do that. Then the body would, and that pollutes, that stagnates and burdens the digestive tract. And in order to expel this all, in order to break down the heavy pollutants, the body is looking for some external help, and it finds it in alcohol, because alcohol does the job. It breaks down uh, proteins, because it's uh, protoplasmic dissolver. It actually breaks down proteins, it breaks down fats. And if we consume that type of products, then we definitely need some external help with that, because our microbiome doesn't handle it well, our digestive juices cannot handle this well, and then people resort to using alcohol like intuitively, so to say, in order to expel the pollution, in order to overcome this burden. But this is the wrong way, as we understand, because the nutrition itself is incorrect, and this nutrition is the type of nutrition which will lead to accumulation and buildup of unhealthy states, conditions, diagnosis, as we know. And on top of it, if somebody is using alcohol, it will cause additional problems and uh, will catalyze these problems, will put them on a faster development path. Um, so alcohol is alcohol, and the damage is always the same. And it doesn't mean, it doesn't matter how much of alcohol you use, but the addiction grows. If you use a glass of wine on daily basis, the addiction will grow on, and then later in life you find that you cannot use just one glass. You need more, and then there will be times people become alcoholics that way, and the destructive effects of alcohol. I don't think that we need to mention, but I can mention a few of them.
Sure, let me mention a few things and then
Mhm.
we can get back to that. So a lot of people think that social drinking may be okay, and occasional amount, a glass or two glasses of wine is okay, or a few beers is okay several times a week and things like that. So first of all, no amount of alcohol is safe, and any amount of alcohol, even the smallest amount, uh, always causes damage. It always kills healthy cells, always, that cannot be regenerated. So they just perish forever. And then a big percentage, at least 30%, I believe, based on the most recent reports, at least 30% of people who only drink socially, they have the first degree of alcohol use disorder or alcoholism. So
That will
it's not that
Mhm.
safe,
Right.
not
That
safe at
will
all.
definitely lead to some other poor consequences. So the effect of alcohol is that it dissolves the fats, but we're beyond the fats that are in digestive tract waiting to be digested. It really damages the brain cells, because brain cells are made of fats, and it emulsifies the fatty acids. It emulsifies and this is the way that people feel uh, high on alcohol, is because it's emulsifying the brain cells. It kills the brain cells. And next morning, just think of it that you urinate with your brain cells, basically. That's what
Yes.
happens. Then it it damages the liver, it predisposes to hepatocytes die out, and fibroid tissue buildup that leads to cirrhosis. And also it constricts the pancreatic ducts, having the uh, pancreas. So like overworking, but yet retaining the enzymes that leads to pancreatitis. Then what's like really bad consequence for females when a woman drinks alcohol, even in insignificant amounts, that damages the follicles. And as we know, females have the follicles inherited in a specific amount by birth, and imagine all the follicles are damaged. That means that the baby in the development is predisposed to different uh, developmental changes, and some of them can be real profound.
Mhm.
So
Even it rings true even for males, right? Because when
yeah,
when guys consume a lot of alcohol, even if it's not a lot of alcohol, it has a negative impact on the posterity. It has a negative impact on the quality of
of the
the
general
male
tissue.
juices of the
Hmm.
genital tissues,
Hmm.
and it conditions the development of the future children.
Hmm. Yes, genetic changes
Mhm.
too. So, and then it dissolves, like it was mentioned, our own fats, and it changes the polarity of erythrocytes and making them cluster together and block the arteries, block the capillaries, where uh, bringing the blood pressure up. It damages the inner lining of the heart, making the pump overwork and damage it too. So it's and another thing is that we know the nation who is drinking most of all. I mean, the wine consumers is probably France. France drinks consume a lot of wine, but then it is the leading nation in depression. They are they are taking most of depressants of all. So
Yeah, so
that's
how do you explain that? Because I was just going to ask you. So what about the touted effect of relaxation that comes with the consumption of alcohol?
uh, the effect on the brain is such that you forget just it affects the memory. You forget things, and then
So
you
it's not
become
true
numb. No,
relaxation.
it's not true, of course, and that's like an easy thing to understand, and it should probably have been mentioned. It's not the true relaxation. It's an artificial. It's a fake of relaxation, really, which has like very poor consequence of then making you agitated really bad. After you come out of this. Alcohol state, and then you agitate and become anxious and tense. That's the consequence of it, and that is real then. But it affects the memory. It numbs the body. It also has the effect of short-term relaxing the muscle, which opens up the spastic blood vessels, which brings the blood pressure down initially. Of course, that happens only initially, but the rebound effect is vice versa. The blood pressure
Mhm.
goes high.
So this is what people mistake for
Relaxation,
relaxation.
yes, yes,
Mhm.
and this feels like your body is in a relaxed state. But
Your
believe me,
body and the mind.
and the mind, yes. But this is not the right way to relax. There are a lot more ways to relax and better quality relaxation, and and of course without the side effects, without the consequences, and so on and so forth, without developing bad personality, without developing addictions, things like that. But the thrive type of relaxation. This is degenerate type of relaxation, which is just feels like a relaxation, but truly is just putting your body and your mind into the numb state, just becoming numb to the world around you. Uh, yeah.
To learn about true, correct ways to relax, join our upcoming Mind Detox program that we will be announcing soon, and also join our um, morning meditations, Just Breathe, Mastery of the Mind meditation at 4:30 a.m. on Dr. Nature Facebook page, which is absolutely free. So we're doing this for you to help you.
And so when when the body is overloaded with improper nutrition, heavy pollutant foods, then the way to resolve this, the way to get rid of this condition is not using another external means or introducing the alcohol to produce this effect, but really to deroot the problem itself. Change your nutrition. Once you change your nutrition, the body will not feel the need in dealing with it overly, having to resort to other ways in order to solve this. It will be just balanced on its own.
So we haven't had a drop of alcohol in the past 7 years, I would say, or eight. And I have to say, it's one of the best things we did for ourselves.
Yes, for sure. And uh, beyond everything, alcohol makes the person lose their human qualities, really. Look around what alcohol ultimately does to people is just it's crazy. Great. I mean, behaviors that alcoholics produce are outrageous, and it's beyond just having fun, it's the aggression that they produce, that they events that they place on, that they misplace on their children, on their like all around, and the driving when people are when people suffer, people are killed in these drunk driving accidents is just like outrageous. It's a horrible way to of behavior,
Mhm.
really.
So alcohol is definitely being forced on people, on the population, and there are some, certain forces that find this advantageous. So according to, there was a paper done by a Belarusian uh, PhD student. A lot of research was put into this, and the result was shocking. Actually, the alcohol industry is so not financially feasible for any country. So countries usually lose 8 times more money than they actually get from the sale of alcohol. So, but it is definitely needed for somebody to enforce this on people. Just wanted to throw it out there, and this is where we will stop.
Yeah, well, one more thing is that, of course, when you consider alcohol is a narcotic, is a drug, we cannot view it differently. It is a drug, even though the law says it's not. But come on, we let's use the common sense. The alcohol is a drug. It's a legal drug. Uh, it is easy to control and manipulate people who are alcoholics. It is. Uh, People who drink do not really strive for improving their intellect and to improve their lifestyle, to learn new things and develop and evolve. And this is probably something that, certain, um, like Irina said, certain forces that, like alcohol mafia, wants people to be, So
To control the masses.
yes.
Okay, so our last question of the podcast is, can chicken soup make a cold go away? So let's spend maybe just a few minutes because it's the easiest question.
Um, well, you'd be surprised if I say yes, right? But it can, under the condition is that when other foods like heavier type of animal products are not used, and it's not because of eating chicken soup, but it's because of not eating some like other red heavier meats, with in combination with the starches, heavy, carbohydrates that and then all that acidic food like in a soup together. So when when an individual is sick with a cold, let's say, the nature provides or takes away the appetite. They don't want to eat. They just cannot eat because there are other priorities within the body that it has to deal with. It has to fight the infection. It has to recuperate. The immune system has to perk up. The digestive tract needs to empty as much as possible. And this is the effect of fasting. It's not what we eat in that time, even though we can supportively eat some fats, anything other than saccharides, monosaccharides, polysaccharides, something that can give immediate energy. That's what the body doesn't really want. It doesn't want that. It has a lot of that stored within the liver. Liver can provide for the energy, that respect, and the liver will know what to do in that way. But when we eat something that doesn't provide the instant energy, the body is still in stays within this cleansing mode, fats, and this is why ketogenic diets are very popular because this is a detox type of nutrition, right? So while individual is sick with cold, they don't want to eat because the body needs to detox, and in eating fats and proteins actually still provides first line of detox. It is glycolysis, and glycolysis is regulated glycolysis by the liver at the time. And yet, why is it like healthy and people consider it healthy? Because even the sick person is still in the habit of wanting to eat, even by the mind, not by nature, because nature has taken away the appetite. It just tells the person, don't eat, I don't want to eat, right? But our untamed mind still considers, and being influenced by the surrounding. Oh, you need to eat, you're sick, you cannot eat, otherwise you cannot overcome this. And then of course what comes into play is some warming that can induce sweating, type of drink, which is the soup itself, that has some fats in it and may even have protein. And protein in this case would actually uh, be not healthy but damaging. But we would not consider that because then the body can still cleanse even having the protein within the system, on the superficial level type of detox we're talking about. Not if we consider like detoxing like really deep, then proteins would actually be really damaging that way. But superficially, where the body can recuperate and get the infection out and perk up the immunity really quickly, the protein would actually be, like not even noticeable for the system. So this is the way the body would benefit
from chicken
from
soup.
chicken soup, but then we would consider it should not be chicken soup. It could be some warm drinks with maybe some essential
Herbal
fatty
tea.
acids.
Herbal
Yeah,
tea,
yeah,
even if it's vegetable soup.
yeah.
Um,
Vegetable soup with
mhm,
with some oils
Even
and
if it's lentil soup.
coconut oil.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
So macrobiotics looks at it this way, and macrobiotics is another great natural healing system. So a disease like a cold, common cold, for example, would be considered extreme yin energy or extreme female energy. Chicken would be considered the extreme yang energy. And in order to balance this extreme yin energy, the disease, some people would think that the extreme energy of yang would be helpful. So it can be helpful in the beginning when you kind of balance the two extreme energies together. So you kind of perk up, you feel perkier, you feel more livelier after eating chicken soup while being sick. But then all of the other side effects kick in. So, like we mentioned, hot herbal tea may be more beneficial, or hot lentil soup, even if it's cooked lentils, or hot vegetable soup. So consider those options.
The way the energies work in this respect is that it is the um, it's not the direct reason for the disease, which is the female energy. It's basically the charge of the disease or the byproduct of the disease. That can be neutralized by the opposite energy field, and but the reason is not removed, of course, and but when we really look into the root of the problem, we need to let our uh, natural process that the body has established within itself, that it will be resorting to, uh, rule. We just need to unleash it, and at that time, nothing. Our consideration would to support the body during this time is actually not eat anything at all. However, uh, another way to uh, to replace the chicken soup would be having mushroom soup would cause the same effect, not even worse. And some maybe hemp seed milk with fortified vitamin D or omega. That would be the solution for that. Uh, in order not to stay hungry if somebody can is not used to that. So that would be the alternative.
Mhm. Wonderful. And also wanted to mention that you may want to watch our video on testosterone, what causes a decrease in the male hormone, including alcohol, on our YouTube channel. So, and this completes our today's podcast, Health Wave podcast. We thank you for being with us, for following us, to support our channel because we do need your support so we can support you even more, even further. It takes a lot of effort to create a lot of educational videos for you that are absolutely free. So please put thumbs up for the video, uh, subscribe to our channel, put comments underneath the video, and as always, send us your questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Let us know what else would you'd like to hear us talk about, and we'll be right on it. Thank you.
Thank you.